Hey guys, welcome to the video for Toweroffantasy PS5. My name is Ventus. In this Toweroffantasy video, I'm going to give you my top 5 best, most powerful weapons of 2024. But really quickly, before I do that, if you're new here, be sure to sub to the channel with notifications on and drop a like. Alright, so coming in at number 5 on this list is the standard banner weapon called Pine Comet. Pine Comet is a flame type damage weapon that is absolutely disgusting. On top of doing crazy amounts of damage when fire resonance is activated in attack roll, this weapon becomes godlike at advancements 3 and 5. On the third advancement of this weapon, it gets a ridiculous amount of self-heals whenever your health drops below half your total percentage, basically making you super tanky. This comes in extremely handy when you need to farm solo. The healing you get back is pretty much automatic, and you don't even need to have the weapon out for the self-heals to start happening. At advancement 5, you get to literally prevent yourself from dying once in a fight every 60 seconds. And as soon as you do prevent yourself from dying, you gain temporary damage immunity. You get an automatic 1000 weapon charge to do a discharge skill, and an extra added bonus to the third advancement, which allows you to restore your health even quicker. Pine Comet, in my opinion, is the best fire damage weapon in the game. And because it's on the standard banner now, it's actually super easy to get more advancements of it. The way that they made this weapon makes it work in conjunction with two other weapons, the Vermilion Bird and the Endless Bloom, two more fire type weapons, with each of them basically buffing each other for crazy good effects when dealing damage. I highly advise advising in the Pine Comet as soon as possible. At number 4 is Fiona and the weapon called Moonstar Bracelet. This is a support altar weapon that was absolutely game changing when it first was introduced into the game. What makes this weapon so broken is that you can literally change its sub-skill to better fit your playstyle. I personally love the sub-skill called Aqua Shackles, which basically is a control skill that holds just about any enemy in place so they can't move, giving you and your team a few seconds to either heal or deal uncontested damage to targets in a serious fight. Altar weapons are weapons without an element, and they automatically inherit the highest attack value from physical, Volt, Flame, or Frost element weapons that you also have equipped. Altar is technically the 5th element added to Toweroffantasy, with more and more altar weapons being added all the time, making altar probably the most deadly element in the game when used in certain teams. Right now, I use the altar team of Fiona, Nanyen, and Nola to deal insane amounts of damage to bosses. Now with Fiona specifically, she has a crazy good third advancement that allows her to execute any enemy when they get to a certain health, making fights end quicker than normal. When you're in Benediction roll, which is basically a support roll having 2 or more support weapons equipped, when a boss gets to basically 75% of their last health bar, they will turn red, and then when you use Fiona, they instantly die. Now, saying 75% is sort of a blanket statement because there are mitigating factors that will make it either a little above or below 75%, but around 75% of the last health bar will allow you to activate her execute skill. Saying it this way just kind of makes it easier for the purposes of this video. When you're not in Benediction roll, Fiona can still execute enemies in the same way, but more of their last health bar needs to be depleted for the execute to become available. At A5, Fiona, like Pine Comet, also has a mechanic in place where she can prevent death once. It's a function of elemental crystals that when you have 3, you prevent death and gain damage immunity. The third weapon on this list is Nanyen and the weapon called Purple Bamboo. This is another altar weapon but in the attack roll, and when I tell you this weapon is so absolutely broken, it's an actual understatement. Do not let anyone tell you differently just because a new weapon has come out that's even more insane. This weapon is still S tier in my opinion. Now what makes this weapon so sick is like half a dozen things. First, it has this skill called Final Tune, which basically increases attack by 30% when you run an all-altar weapon team. It has another skill called Imbue, which when you switch from Purple Bamboo to another weapon of a different element type, it literally becomes that element type. It also has the ability to set teleport waypoints on any map so that you can quickly set a portal and teleport directly there. It's called Void Abyss Current, and all you do is press and hold the attack button, and boom, a portal is created on the spot, and you can always warp right back to that spot from the map. I use this all the time when farming hard to reach areas. Now, I could go on and on about this weapon and its absolute craziness, like seriously. I feel like in the dev room, they pretty much said, how do we make the best weapon ever? And they threw every good idea they had into one weapon, and Purple Bamboo is what they came up with. But the one thing for me that makes Purple Bamboo completely worth it is the discharge skill, Confining Tune. This discharge does like 100 different things. So without going into every minute detail, basically when you use a discharge skill, depending on what element type that you weapon used right before activating the discharge, it calls out a Domain 9 World Boss summon to deal crazy amounts of damage to your locked on target, and each boss does something specific to enemies as well. For example, when you use a frost weapon, you call out Alabaster Elite and deal area damage equal to 500% of attack, gain a shield equal to 60% of max HP for 30 seconds, and create a hailstorm by the locked on target that deals damage equal to 420% of attack to nearby targets for 15 seconds. And that's not all. On top of that, when you use a discharge, you summon a clone of Nanyan that fights on its own alongside you. And if that's not enough, you can actually inhabit the clone and fight as the clone by holding the dodge, and then deal boss slaying damage with the newly gained skill called Void Skill that consumes 25% of the clone's max HP to deal damage equal to 1870% to 2040% of the clone's attack, and increase crit rate by 30% for 60 seconds. Listen, I don't care what anybody says, this weapon is still super broken. There is a lot more to say about this weapon, but I don't want this to be like a 20-minute video of me just glazing Nanyan. Next at number 2 is a Volt Fortitude weapon called Azure Dragon, but people just call it Mimi after the Simulacrum. This weapon is probably the best tank weapon in the game because it has a hold spam attack that, when you are in damage roll with Volt Resonance activated, it basically kills any and everything with little to no effort. You don't need to do any crazy rotations, just use the weapon skill called Azure Moon that creates a swirling dragon overhead that deals insane volt damage to everything in the area, and just keep the attack button held down to use stamina to keep blasting. While using the spam hold attack, you gain a shield which basically makes you immune to knockback, and when this weapon came out, they introduced the pet system, and they gave you this little dragon pet that has the ability to give you yet another shield to help you further mitigate damage. If anyone were to ask me what's the first weapon I should get in Tower of Fantasy, I would 100% without a doubt tell them Mimi. It's basically the backbone of any team. At A5, the weapon gets its own ability to avoid death that can be activated every 60 seconds. Now, another thing that makes this weapon so good is that unlike a lot of weapons, this one is perfectly valid at no advancements. And now at number 1, the best weapon in the game by far is Nola. Nola is, at the making of this video, the current newest banner weapon until Volt Marrow drops later on this month, and I assume Volt Marrow will take the top spot. But until then, Nola is hands down the best weapon in the game that I have ever seen, and that's not an exaggeration for the sake of a video. Nola and her weapon Rumble are another alter attack type weapon just like Nanyan. This weapon has a few pretty useful and powerful skills. First is called Shifting, which states when 3 alter weapons are equipped, it increases all elemental damage by 30%. Then it has Elemental Engine Rumble. It actually allows you to go in and change the element type in the settings of the weapon, so you can make it go from being a pure altar weapon to a fire physical weapon like Zeke and the Onyx Tortoise, or a Volt Frost weapon, just to name a couple. Now, I personally only have Nola at A1, Advanced with 1, and I can tell you that this is the strongest weapon in my warehouse. Again, I don't want to turn this into a long glazing video, so I'll tell you exactly what I like about this weapon that makes it absolutely the best weapon in the game, and it's the skill called Flash Rider. So basically, once you do Nola's first skill called Violent Energy, a few moments later a new sub-skill pops up called Flash Rider, and depending on which element you have Nola set to, Flash Rider behaves differently. My personal favorite is the alter type, which is what you're seeing in this video. To make a long story short, using Flash Rider in alter roll deals what the fuck damage to basically anything. This is how it reads. Deal damage equal to 6,250%. Listen, 6,250% of the Wanderer's max HP to targets. This damage does not exceed 1,000 times the Wanderer's attack. Counts as skill damage and is unaffected by damage boosting effects. Now, without going into micromanaging details, I hit 50 mil damage or a little bit above on bosses when using this skill. Other people have told me they hit as high as 100 mil damage using this skill. Now listen, I'm a simple man. As soon as I saw this, I was sold. The A3 of this weapon allows you to prevent lethal damage every 60 seconds and ignore 15% of the target's resistances. At A5, using the skill Violent Energy, you recover 6% of max HP every 10 seconds until the super speed ends. A6 increases final damage by 30%. Now, there are more things that this weapon does incredibly well, but I just wanted to tell you the key points that stuck out to me. And that's it. That's my list of top 5 best weapons in 2024 of Tower Fantasy as of the making of this video. Now, I'm sure once Volt Merrill comes out, Pine Comet will have to leave this list and it will be rearranged in some sort of way. But until that happens, these are the weapons that I think are the best. Now, obviously, as a disclaimer, I can't speak on weapons I don't have. So if you think this list is flawed in any way, please let us know in very kind terms down in the comments. Let me know if I'm missing out on something that's super busted. Alright guys, that's going to be it for the video. Don't forget to leave a like, and I'll catch you next time. Peace out.